I have been flooded with messages from you guys all morning about Kyler Gordon starting training camp on the PUP list. It is officially the first day of school at Halas Hall, but our secondary star is already sidelined. This is a massive concern because the Chicago Bears need everyone healthy to build this new defensive identity. There are two sides to this situation: the immediate injury report and the larger impact on our roster depth. The deeper we dig into this start, the more questions arise for the season. Smash that like button and drop your city below. Let's get into it. The 2026 Chicago Bears training camp officially opened this week at Halas Hall, but the most pressing concern for our organization is the status of defensive back Kyler Gordon, who begins this critical period on the PUP list. Gordon has become a staple of this secondary since arriving in Chicago, eventually earning a 3-year, $40 million extension from general manager Ryan Poles back in April 2025. He has been a reliable piece of our defensive identity, making his current injury status a point of immediate anxiety for a fan base that values his tenacity. The injury was confirmed as camp kicked off on Tuesday, casting a small shadow over what head coach Ben Johnson described as an exciting time to foster competition and build a new chapter of football. Here's the thing nobody wants to say. While we talk about the excitement of year 2 under this staff, losing a key veteran leader like Gordon to an early injury creates a difficult void in the secondary that others must fill immediately. Fans are rightfully concerned, especially given the high expectations surrounding this revamped 2026 roster. We know the coaching staff expects a new layer of sophistication this season, and that development relies heavily on having our core defensive pieces healthy and active on the grass. It leaves us wondering if the depth of this secondary is truly ready to handle the pressure that Johnson plans to apply during these upcoming sessions. If Gordon remains sidelined for an extended period, which specific young defensive back will step up to prove they deserve the snaps that were meant for him during this crucial evaluation window? The most pressing concern at Halas Hall is that Darnell Wright's contract extension remains unsigned, a situation that carries significant financial risk as the league's salary landscape shifts rapidly. We watched Wright earn his second-team All-Pro selection in 2025, proving he is a foundational piece of our offensive line. Yet management is choosing to delay these negotiations to avoid any distractions during the grind of training camp. Here's what people are missing. The market for top-tier trench talent has exploded, with other clubs setting record-breaking benchmarks that will inevitably drive up the cost of retaining our own stars. While general manager Ryan Poles has been consistent in handling extensions during the offseason, waiting longer could make Wright one of the most expensive tackles in the game. Think back to the Kyler Gordon extension reached in April 2025. Poles moved quickly then to lock in that 3-year, $40 million deal before the pressure of the season began. By opting for a different strategy with Wright, the organization is betting that a focused, distraction-free player will deliver a better performance, even if it forces a higher price tag down the road. Behind closed doors, our leadership likely feels that keeping the focus on football operations is paramount to building a culture of sustained success under Ben Johnson. It is a calculated gamble on stability, prioritizing the team's immediate goals over the comfort of long-term contract certainty. But for fans who remember past roster turnover, the urgency to finalize this deal remains palpable. We expect our front office to prioritize this as soon as the pads come off for the season. Shifting gears from the headlines, let us take a moment to consider what this transition actually signifies for our future on the field. What makes this even bigger is that Ben Johnson is essentially architecting a new identity from the ground up, forcing every single player to earn their spot anew despite last year's successes. The immediate impact is a wide-open competition that keeps the roster hungry and prevents complacency from taking root in Halas Hall. With key leaders moving on, we are looking at a fundamental shift in how the secondary and receiver core will operate, which changes our depth chart calculation significantly. For our upcoming schedule, this means we must rely on chemistry building quickly during these early camp days to avoid stumbling against opponents who might have more established veteran cores. The stakes are high because we cannot afford a slow start while the coaching staff searches for the right personnel to fill the gaps. As we face our division rivals, our standing depends on whether guys like Luther Burden III can translate that offseason intensity into real production when the pressure mounts. Darnell Wright remains a cornerstone piece, and although the financial side of his extension is sidelined to keep his focus on the gridiron, his performance will dictate our overall offensive stability. Ultimately, our playoff chances hinge on this group coming together under this rigorous, demanding philosophy. We are watching a deliberate, calculated rebuild of our culture, where the sophistication of the coaching staff must bridge the gap between last year's potential and this year's championship aspirations in a very competitive league. The decision to delay Darnell Wright's contract extension is a classic strategic move by Ryan Poles aimed at maintaining focus and financial leverage throughout the upcoming season. By holding off, the team ensures that Wright remains hungry and disciplined, avoiding the complacency that can sometimes follow a massive payday. Think about it this way. Preserving the salary cap flexibility allows the Bears to navigate future roster needs while rewarding performance based on current year output. The downside, however, is that this approach inherently increases the long-term price tag. As market values soar for elite offensive tackles elsewhere in the league, waiting could prove costly if he maintains his all-pro trajectory. Analysts at ESPN have already drawn direct parallels to the rising market, noting recent massive deals for players like Brian O'Neill in Minnesota and Jalen Carter in Philadelphia. These figures serve as a constant reminder that the cost of top-tier talent only trends upward. While Poles successfully extended Kyler Gordon last year, the market for premium tackles is arguably more volatile and aggressive. My honest take here is that while the front office is preaching a no-distraction policy, there is an unavoidable risk of frustration if negotiations drag into next spring. I believe the team will eventually get the deal done, but suggesting that waiting carries no financial consequence is simply ignoring how the modern NFL business model operates. We clearly want Wright in Chicago for the long haul, yet we must acknowledge that every sack prevented and every hole opened makes him an even more expensive investment for the organization to retain when the time finally arrives to put pen to paper. When we weigh the current roster transitions against the long-term vision laid out by Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson, it becomes clear that this franchise is moving toward a highly structured, sustainable era of competitive football. As Chicago Bears fans, we should feel optimistic about this trajectory because the foundation is being built on reliable habits. From the focus on post-snap processing for Caleb Williams to the aggressive commitment to retaining cornerstone players like Darnell Wright. Let's be real, the decision to prioritize internal development and chemistry over quick fixes is exactly what a championship-caliber organization does to ensure success lasts for years rather than just one season. You should feel confident heading into these opening weeks of camp because the coaching staff is clearly synchronized, and the hunger displayed by young stars like Luther Burden III provides a necessary spark for this new chapter. This isn't just about winning individual matchups during practice. It is about establishing a cultural identity that withstands the inevitable trials and tribulations of an NFL schedule. The emphasis on sophistication in the coaching staff and the deliberate pace of contract negotiations suggest a front office that is thinking several steps ahead. We are witnessing a professional transformation at Halas Hall that prioritizes substance over flash, which is the most encouraging sign for our future. Looking at these developments, do you believe Luther Burden III will surpass 1,000 receiving yards in his second season? If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. Bear down. I'll see you in the next one.